Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and of course the Pokemon TCG has a ton of really interesting cards and really good cards, but today I'm going to be talking about a card that I think is really underrated and also really interesting. This is a card that caught my attention when it was first revealed, and I didn't know exactly what to do with it, and I'm going to be completely honest, I still don't know exactly what to do with it, but I am now, I've been playing with it a little more, and it's really interesting. And also, as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section if you have suggestions that I don't talk about or just kind of touch on in this video, or if you have thoughts about this card, which is Strange Timepiece. Strange Timepiece here is a really interesting card. It is an item that says to devolve one of your evolved Psychic Pokemon by putting any number of evolution cards on it into your hand. Devolving is like the opposite of evolving. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's referred to on a handful of cards. It's like not a regular mechanic, but it is something you see from time to time here. And there's not really anything, as far as I'm aware, that interacts specifically with devolving. I guess it is referenced, so like there's some things that interact with both evolving and devolving. Let me say interact, not like cause devolving, because obviously TM Devolution does that, and this does that. But there's not really payoffs for devolving, except for the fact that you can replay the Pokemon down. You could also knock yourself out doing it. Like TM Devolution devolves your opponent's Pokemon to knock him out. Here, obviously, you want some upside, which is pretty much just to reuse abilities. I don't really think there's any other use case of Strange Timepiece. Actually, no, there is. You could use it as a card because obviously it devolves a Psychic Pokemon. If you got, like, say, Gardevoir EX, you can devolve your Gardevoir EX into a Kirlia, or you could devolve your Mega Gardevoir EX into a Kirlia, and now you don't have that multi-prize liability on your board. That is an interesting use case. I've heard about it. I've heard of it talked about. I haven't actually seen anyone. I mean, certainly haven't seen anyone do it. I don't even think I've seen anyone actually playing Strange Timepiece in Gardevoir, really at all. Looking at the IRL regional tournament or tournaments or higher, we can see in Alakazam to Dunsparce in this one list is just a one of, and I'll talk about this a little bit more as we dive deeper into it. It's like pretty decent here. And then looking at city leagues, which by the way, there's a lot of city leagues and a lot of weird stuff in these decks, but yeah, there is not that much Strange Timepiece being played here. We see it exclusively in Alakazam here. There's a few different builds. The Dragapult build, I don't know, I'm not really going to talk about that one. There's like a regular Dunsparce build, and there's one with Tinkaton EX, or no, yeah, with Tinkaton EX and regular Tinkaton. It's really interesting, and I'll actually talk about this build here first. Again, the devolving your liability thing is really niche, because, like, why do you play it if you just want to devolve it? What? This plays Nemona in Nemona's backpack. That's kind of funny. This is not like a perfect list, I don't think. I don't know. But it seems interesting here. But anyways, Alakazam is obviously a pretty good use case. It has an ability on play, which lets you draw 3 cards when you play it, and Kadabra has an ability that lets you draw 2 cards when you play it. Additionally, Strange Timepiece returns the previous evolutions, or sorry, the evolutions to your hand, which would presumably be Alakazam and Kadabra. And even if you don't play them down this turn, you still increase your hand size by 1. So it's going to be increasing your hand size by a bunch. Of course, Alakazam, if you're not familiar, just wants a big hand to do lots of damage or damage counters with its attack here, right? It's pretty simple and straightforward. Same thing with Tinkaton EX. I will say there's also something really cool you can do with this deck. Also, this is the only list I've seen 2 copies of Strange Timepiece in, and the other ones all have it as a one of, and I'm going to show some really interesting use cases for it in higher quantities. Obviously, you could just put more copies in if you wanted to here. Again, it is drawing you extra cards. It is pretty fun within that role. But it's not like absurdly powerful, right? Ultimately, having Pokemon Search is probably just going to be better most of the time, even if it's not increasing your hand size by as much, because it is allowing you to, actually set up. Strange Timepiece is really good in certain situations where you're more or less already set up and you just need a little bit more damage. You can also devolve, I'll read it again here or show it off. You devolve an evolved Psychic Pokemon, putting any number of evolutions on it into your hand. The Basic or the Stage 1 don't need to be Psychic, so you can actually devolve one of the Tinkatons here, Tinkaton or Tinkaton EX, into Tinkatink, and you can replay your Tinkatuff, which has an on-play ability letting you discard energy from one of your opponents, or sorry, from your opponent's active specifically, on a coin flip here. This is really funny. It's not particularly good, but again, it is pretty funny here. It's the, I believe, only non-psychic Pokemon that can use Strange Timepiece in Standard. Tell me down below in the comment section if I'm wrong on that. I looked before this video and didn't see anything. but I could have missed something as well. But ultimately, that's pretty funny, but it's like not very good either, right? Because you're going up like an extra stage. It's really clunky, but it is funny there. But it is, as I said, good with Alakazam. Any deck playing Strange Timepiece can get good value out of it. Pairing it with Alakazam, I think, is just like a draw option. If you don't use Strange Timepiece for anything else, then you can use it on your Kadabra or your Alakazam, and then draw some more cards in the future, which is pretty cool. I guess I messed around with it some, but as we'll see, most of the other options are really control focused or disruptive. They're not necessarily played in pure control decks, though. There's one deck I played that is a true control deck, which did play Strange Timepiece in it. But anyways, here are all the Pokemon that can use Strange Timepiece in Standard. Well, they're the Pokemon that have on-play abilities that are Psychic. As I said, like any Psychic Evolution can use it, like Gardevoir EX. Also, tell me down below in the comment section if you've actually used Gardevoir EX with Strange Timepiece, or if you've seen anyone do it. As I said, I haven't actually seen anyone do it. It seems really niche, or it seems really fun, but really niche there. But we have 10 here. I mentioned Abra and Kadabra already. So I'll go in order now from worst to best. I guess the worst one is probably Haunter. Haunter is a card that's really bad. It's supposed to synergize with the Gengar or cards like it that do damage based on, specifically, I believe it does damage based on trainers in your opponent's hand. So if you really want to do something like this, you could use Haunter. What it does is it returns a supporter from your opponent's discard into their hand. It's kind of funny, but obviously giving your opponent more cards that are presumably good, because supporters are generally quite good, is bad, right? You don't want to be giving your opponent lots of good cards, and especially in a deck that's kind of toolboxy, because ultimately I think a Strange Timepiece toolboxy deck is pretty cool. Haunter is pretty terrible in that, right? It's really bad. This card is generally actively bad to use its ability there. Then we have, I think Lily's Rabombi is pretty bad. Lily's Rabombi is a card, if you don't know the Lily's Pokemon, there's a few different ones. It's not just Lily's Clefairy EX. They're supposed to theoretically all synergize with Lily's Clefairy EX, but they don't synergize very well. But Lily's Rabombi here, it lets you look at your opponent's hand when you play it, and you put can put any number of basic Pokemon you find there onto their bench. Yeah, so this hasn't seen really any play as far as I'm aware. Realistically, it's like kind of okay to get basics onto your opponent's bench, but like Erica's Invitation is going to be better. Eric's Invitation is a similar type of card. It is your supporter for the turn, but it looks there, gets a basic, puts it onto their bench, and then also gusts it as well. Though if you do miss, then it's like kind of awkward. But this card sees regular play within control. Also, it sees some play apparently in Goldengo. I haven't actually seen anyone like play this against me in Goldengo, but it's a kind of cool card there. It's definitely a decent card. Liz Rabombi is, I mean, it's an evolution. This is an evolution with 70 HP. That's super low. The basic has 30, so yeah, there's a lot of issues with it. It does have free retreat, which is kind of cool, but ultimately this card, yeah, it's pretty bad, and it's funny. It's not like completely horrendous, I guess, but also you don't really need to reuse it, right? Realistically, you'll use it once and get what you want. If you miss, then that's kind of bad. But is trying again in the future that likely to help you? Probably not. And again, there was Erica's invitation to probably do this just a lot better. But then there's also two here that are pretty interesting, to be honest. They are Hypno, which says when you play it, you make your opponents active asleep. And there's also Bramblagast, which makes your opponents active confused. I didn't actually talk about this yet, but the reason I decided to like look more into Strange Timepiece was because I was playing it with a Confusion Toolboxy deck, or just Toolbox deck. I don't know why I keep using the term Toolboxy. It's like it is a toolbox. Is it? I don't know. Anyways, I actually talked about the video on my channel, or sorry, the deck on my channel in a video, though I didn't play it. The deck, long story short, it's really bad. It uses Mismagius EX. Mismagius EX is bad. It's pretty bad. It's not super fun. Anyways, Bramblagast, though, was one of the pieces here. Bramblagast doing Confusion, I think, is a bit better than Hypno doing Sleep. Sleep is inconsistent, right? They're both inconsistent. They both stop your opponent from attacking half the time. Sleep can stop them from retreating, which could be good. But also your opponent knows what's going to happen before they go to attack. They'll know if they can or can't. Bramblagast, confusing them, they don't necessarily know that there. Also, Bramblagast is newer. I'm not going to lie, that's why it was in the deck, and it was a confusion deck there. But Bramblagast as a confusion enabler is cool as well, because you can use it once, and then it confuses. You don't need to necessarily play it again, like every turn, unlike Hypno, which you kind of do. mean, then you can use your strange timepieces in other situations there, which is definitely really useful to allow you to use it occasionally if you need to. Also, the idea here is that you play the card with its on play ability, then you instantly use strange timepiece there to then be able to just play it back when you need it, to have all your options open on your bench. I will say some of these have really low HPs on the basics. Bramblin has yeah, 50, which is like not so good. Drowsy actually has okay, it has 70 or even 80 if you want to. So definitely a bit better in that regard. There's a 70 with one retreat there. And then I'm not actually familiar with all the each piece of the basics though. I know Flittle is not very good. But anyways, those are kind of interesting options that are disruptive, inflicting a special condition there. Also, they don't stack. If you don't know that, they don't. The one will get rid of the other, but they are kind of cool there for disruption. And yeah, I mean, I do like Brambleghast. I think it's a cool little card. I'm actually not a huge fan of coin flips, but I do think it is a good card. Then there is also Grumpig. Grumpig, I've seen some people play with a little bit in like videos. I think I don't know. I've heard it talked about with being released in the same set as Strange Timepiece. Not as much as as Alakazam from Mega Evolution, which has seen um a good chunk of play or some play with Strange Timepiece. Grumpig has seen less, I think. But when you evolve it, you look at the top 4 cards of your deck, then attach a number of basic energy cards you find there to your Pokemon in any way you like. This is okay energy acceleration, I guess. It's not particularly good. It's like Metang, but it's once. You can reuse it again with Strange Timepiece, but that's like not amazing. It's still like Metang, except you need to like feed resources into it, but it is every type. And then every type, but it is basic. And then there's also like the Vileplume line, which people have been playing a little bit with. Okay, I can't spell. Vileplume from 151, which is a similar card. It accelerates 8 when you play it. The Gloom looks at the top 8, accelerates any amount there. Then Gloom looks at 3. This can be paired with, again, it's not like super amazing. Oh, someone played it. You can pair it with Force to Vitality there, as well as something like Dawn to get these like really explosive and powerful and really fun, but kind of silly plays. Grumpig's not really doing that. It can do like some stuff. There are ways to get cards on top of your deck. There are some things you can do with Grumpig that are pretty fun, but ultimately it's not super powerful. I mean, the power is like, I guess, all right, but it's really inconsistent. Again, it is a cool card there. It's also really different than all the others, which are pretty much all disruptive outside of Alakazam. But it is kind of interesting there, and I've heard some talks about it. Then there's also this Dashbun EX. This is the only, I believe, EX of them. Yeah. And what it does when you play it, you evolve one of your Pokemon. When you play it, then you heal all damage from each of your evolutions, but then discard all energy attached to those Pokemon. This is the same effect as Cheryl from Battle Styles, which was like, okay. This obviously is kind of awkward on an evolution. It's also a bit of a liability when you play it, so being able to devolve it instantly is actually super useful to essentially never have this as a liability on the board. So that's pretty cool there. And yeah, I mean, it's cool. I just don't know quite the use case for it. Looking at the top decks right now, because this is definitely something that is kind of techable within different decks. Oh, also, yeah, play Limitless here for Phantasmal Flames. For some reason, it's like not been updated very well. As of this moment, I imagine it will get fixed in the future, but the decks aren't really categorized. It was updated late. I don't know exactly how that's affected the deck categorization. It might not have actually. It might be still like long story short, I don't know how many days of tournaments this is. It might be like what did it come out like 2 weeks ago or something, or a week ago, something like that. The 14th. What day is it? It is the okay. I can't see it. I don't know. Yeah, it's been like a week here. So ultimately, long story short, I don't know exactly how good the data is here, but ultimately, yeah, the metagame, you're looking for 1 energy evolution attackers. You got Goldingo EX that's not really looking for all this healing stuff going on in it. Same thing with Sierra Ledge. It's pretty similar there. Yes, there's Alakazam. That meets the requirements that I said, but certainly not what you're looking for there. And the rest like fall short in various different ways, so they're not horrible either. There are reasons why Greninja's 20. What is there something I'm missing here? No, it's I mean, Greninja's a cool card in the deck, but it's not all that, right? But anyways, yeah, you got Greninja actually like kind of works with it, but again, all these have like some amount of flaws there. Dash Bunny X is pretty cool here, but it is like a little committal for the effect it has. You can do something very similar with Professor Toad's scenario, so it's kind of meh. It's cool though. It's definitely a card that I think is worth considering, paired with Strange Timepiece, making it not a liability, making it repeatable. But only ideally if you are playing some other Strange Timepiece stuff, which I've talked about some. I'll talk about the last two here. Yeah, Espathra. This one is invincible the turn you play it. Its attack is very mediocre. I've seen some play within Espathra EX decks, which Espathra EX also I like that card. I haven't played it in so long, but it's cool. But anyways, Espathra, the single prizer, being immune the turn you play is cool. The damage is not very good. It's not completely horrendous, but it's kind of meh. You theoretically could like loop it. Using Strange Timepiece, which is interesting. I don't think it's super good, but it is an interesting concept there. I don't think people have really done this. I mean, you can't think of the last time I've seen this card, but it is definitely a really good candidate for Strange Timepiece, and I'm going to say it's invincible. You can prevent all damage from and effects of attacks done to this Pokemon. It is not immune to something like Dusknoir, but it is immune to something like Dragon Ball EX's bench damage counters or like Absolute EX instantly one-shotting it. So that's definitely a little interesting here. This is a really cool card, I guess. I'm not a huge fan of cards that directly name other cards, but ultimately Espathra is a really nice use. If you're playing Espathra, you presumably want to be playing Strange Timepiece with it. Also, you cannot evolve into the evolution immediately, right? I don't know if I read that, but you can't do that. You can't use this to like pivot into a different evolution like Espathra EX, but instantly. But it does have some pretty cool use cases here. Flittle, as I said, also is like really low HP, but Espathra is a pretty cool card to use with it. Also, in terms of mixing it with the other Pokemon, it doesn't do an amazing job of that, but Espathra EX is pretty disruptive. And compare it with like Bramblegast and the last Pokemon here, the one that's interested me the most, which is Mismagius. Maybe I shouldn't have saved the best for last, but I think this card's super good. This is Mismagius here from Paldea Evolved, and it has the ability Magical Flick, which is actually a very descriptive ability, which says when, or name for the ability, which says when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you can move an energy from your opponent's active to one of their bench Pokemon. This is like the Tinkatuff earlier. Except it allows you to guarantee get their energy off. It does go to one of their bench Pokemon, so it is still on board in some situations, like if your opponent's playing like a Venusaur EX, or if they're, doing something similar to that, or if they don't have many bench Pokemon, or any bench Pokemon, this is not good. But, you can see in Standard, there's an LGM. LGM is a pretty good card. I was going to say very good. I think it's quite good. Played mostly in Pidgeot control. What it does is, it does the same thing, or pretty much the same thing. Move an energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon to another of their Pokemon. Theoretically, could move energy around on their bench as well. Mismagius doesn't do quite as much there, but ultimately, it does a pretty good job there. And this can be used every turn, like looped without needing your attacker to commit to it. And the reason I ended up winning a game with this, and Strange Timepiece. I was playing like a control box style deck with Mismagius. I played Dash Bunny X. I think Dash Bunny X was like super bad in the decks. Didn't really have very good targets there. But then I had Dedenne as well. Dedenne is another piece that you'll see in some of these. I think probably most of these Pidgeot control lists. It's again mostly played in Pidgeot control. It's a really cool card here, allowing you to recover a trainer from you just good to your hand. And there are other cards like this, but Dedenne, I believe, is like by far the best. It's actually a really good card. There was a Regieleki that does something, literally the same attack, name, and effect. That was pretty good. It did have more HP, which in some ways is better, but this is also Buddy Pop and searchable. This card's like super good. It is like, again, kind of vulnerable to stuff. It's not like it's not like recovering everything all at once, but it is pretty powerful. And if you don't see where this is going or how it went, I recovered Strange Timepiece every single turn, and then after doing that, I played Mismagius every single turn, or like pretty much every turn. My opponent eventually ran out of energy. I actually trapped a Dusclops in the active, and I did this by using Psyduck as well, right? If I didn't have Psyduck, they would knock themselves out and then been out of there. I didn't take any prizes, I don't think. But ultimately, yeah, that's pretty powerful. That doesn't beat everything. You need to get a 2 prize Pokemon stuck, or not a 2 retreat Pokemon stuck in the active. You could use Gravity Gemstone to do that though, but it can't be Latias EX either. Or they can't have Latias EX and play it can't have free retreat, right? They can't be able to air balloon it or like Latias CX it out of play, or sorry, out of the active. But ultimately they weren't able to do that, right? It's Latias CX allows them to retreat basics, and it wasn't a basic. So, yeah, I mean, this card or this combo here, Spinning Mismagius, is really useful in some occasions. Getting your opponent confused is really annoying, forcing them to then retreat, or not retreat, just like coin flip, or they could like flip tails and just not attack. It just forces them to like do these weird plays that they don't want to do, and then you just keep messing with them with the confusion or sleep. As I said, I'm pretty sure confusion's better. But I mean, I like confusion more as well. But anyways, you have these special conditions here. And you have these like various disruptive abilities. You have healing, as I said, if you want. You have the immunity on Espathra. You have Alakazam as like a draw option. It's not insanely powerful, but it's very versatile. It's really cool. Opening some really just unique play patterns. Um, and replaying cards is just really fun. It's not scoop up net here. Also, you can use scoop up Cyclone for like a similar purpose to reuse abilities. I actually also played scoop up Cyclone. Scoop up Cyclone is going to be generally better unless you want to very specifically reuse a stage 2, which the only one is Alakazam, which if you want to reuse Alakazam, you probably also want to just reuse Kadabra. So you're probably going to devolve to the basic anyways, which is the same thing as scoop up Cyclone. Scoop up Cyclone does require you to replay the basic, which could be bad, but it's probably not bad. It's probably good. But ultimately, it's a really cool card, Strange Timepiece. It's a super underrated card that is useful as an option in some decks. It is a substantial package. I mean, you could run 1/1 Mismagius paired with a couple copies of Strange Timepiece, just like 2 maybe, and like a 1/1 Brambleghast to get some decent versatility, decent consistency. I'm going to be completely honest. I ran some really thin lines, not of Strange Timepiece, but of the other stuff, and got super lucky with prizing. So I got to be kind of careful with that. But ultimately, it's a really cool card. But tell me down below in the comment section if you played with this card, if you've seen your opponents play with it, if you think this card's good, or if I'm just like, hyping something up just because I think it's really cool, but it's actually really bad. I'm not saying this card is like super amazing, but I think it's playable and really slept on. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell, all the good stuff. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.